Okay, welcome to this impromptu, probably going to be a relatively short live stream. We're really trying to figure out what we want to do with live streams this year. And I've been doing them at different times of day and had kind of a really mixed response to them. And in many ways, we've been actually getting lower and lower views with them. So I wanted to come on in the context of doing a Q&A if anyone has any questions or anything they want to talk about specifically with Logic. But I also want to ask everyone who comes through over the next like 30 minutes if you find live streams useful, if you would find it more useful if you knew exactly when they were going to be every week, or if the impromptu thing is something that might still be working. And so it's like I just am trying to figure out um, exactly what this might look like for us over the next, few months or over the course of 2023. So, uh, really two parts to this. One of them is, do you have any thoughts about do you like live streams or not? And the other one is, um, what's the plan, or what kind of questions do we have for this? So, no destination really. Ask any news on the partnership with UA, and of course, there is not anything. Apple's not talking about. They don't talk about stuff like that. We may find out stuff later on down the road. We may see some, things changing. But um, even if this really does turn into something, the hire happened late last year, but it takes time to get things changing and moving through the system. Even if they came in and wanted to change every single thing we did, then you know that would be a whole different thing that we'll see a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. Hi, Fire Wings. How you doing? Um, I might be kind of multitasking a little bit as we do this. Leaf asks a question. Big Ear Tupac. What do you think? What is your preference? Okay. In terms of the live stream stuff, what we're looking at is a few different options. I'm really going to be trying to change up the live stream a little bit in terms of doing things how we have been doing them, or switching out so that we can do various things with different cameras and um, all kinds of fun stuff with the streams. I think that live streaming can be a really good way to talk about stuff, but it's really just depends on what if there's no audience for it, if there's no one interested in it, then it makes it certainly a little bit different. So we're going to be experimenting with some of those things as we do it. This is my new favorite one right here, where I jump up in the help screen, the little quick help menu. So what questions do you have about Logic? What projects are you working on? Tell me about some of the stuff you're doing. We can just work on some stuff if you don't have questions and you want to see some stuff in action. What are you thinking with all of this? There's a few of you on right now, but what are you doing in Logic this week? How do you use Logic? We're just gonna leave this open ended a little bit. There's no necessarily a preset expectation for this short stream we're doing today, but hopefully someone will tell you more about what you're doing as well. No Destination really says would love to hear more about workflow for speed to work quicker. Uh, that's actually a super useful question. partially because I do think that there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Um, in terms of the workflow that I use, I think I'm really fast at what I do, but mostly because I do it a lot. And so it's just the repetition of it. I think that when I see someone using the software and they are kind of clunky in it, it's just because they haven't spent the time learning how to do it. And so I feel like the answer to anything is just to do it a bunch. And as you do it more and more, you'll figure out your patterns that make sense to you and you'll be able to do stuff with it. Um, we could look at specific things, of course, but I think for the most part, I would say there's a couple main things that really increase my workflow. Um, and then there's times that I actually put things in the way to slow it down just a little bit. Because if I'm, creating or writing, then I want to be like a little bit slower and more intentional. If I'm doing work for somebody else, that's usually when I want to be faster. But I don't. It's like if I'm writing music or creating something, I don't necessarily need to be fast on it. However, when I work in front of like students at the university and they're watching me go, or like when I do a tutorial and somebody's watching it back, one of the comments I get probably more often than I should is, "Wow, you did that way too fast. I didn't see what you were doing." And so it's kind of like, oh, slow it down. There's a feature in YouTube where you can do it like half speed if you need to see some of those things. Gigadesk has more complex routing through buses in order to create stems and submixes. Yeah, we should do like a whole series on that. I still see even students and professionals who have been using software for like 5 to 10 years. I still see some of the most fascinating routing sometimes, and I just think, why are you doing it that way? Um, and oftentimes it's just they never really learned a different way, or they did a way that makes sense to them, but doesn't mean that it's the right thing. Leaf says, could you show us how to download that plugin named Ripcord? I don't know. I've not used Ripcord. I'll take a peek over there at what you're talking about, but that's what I thought it might be. Ripcord is a free MIDI plugin for creating and remixing chord progressions. I mean, this looks a lot like, it may have some automatic stuff in there, but honestly, this looks almost identical to the chord tool we have in Logic. Software instrument. Let me just load this up real quick. Instrument. Sure. MIDI effects, chord trigger. I mean, that it has the same interface as that. I wonder what's really different about it. But I'm not going to download that one. If you're having trouble with it, that's probably something that is on their end, not Logic's end. Gigadeath, thanks, you're awesome. You said here how to send MIDI from Logic to Logic, jumping per event to a marker, live play, Mac MIDI routing. Live play, jumping per event, Logic to Logic, Mac MIDI routing. Gigadeath, 200 plus buses sounds insanity. I don't think I've ever gotten a project to 200 buses in a template. I'm trying to think of situations like if I were doing a big orchestral thing where I had every instrument on its own track, of course, that would be one thing for sure. I don't understand the other thing you were saying though. How to send MIDI from Logic to Logic. Jumping per event. I know I'm losing something in translation here. Um, I mean, tell me more what that means, because I'll make a video about it. It sounds interesting, but I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to on there. And it sounds like Gigadeath, you don't need a video about complex routing because it sounds like you're getting there. You want to jump per controller to the next marker. Ah, so you want like to hit a marker and it go. You want to hit like a note on a MIDI keyboard and have it jump to a marker. I see. I think that's what you're saying. I'll have to check that out. There are some workstations which allow this. Let me check one thing. I haven't worked like that in there because I don't usually, I try never to use Logic Live if I can help it, like that. But there are reasons to do it for sure. Key commands. Let's edit some assignments here. And we'll do markers. Or marker. We'll just do that. So obviously, if you have right here, so you say go to marker number 1, and we have up to 20 built into the key commands. So you could do this just by assigning a MIDI note to this. Trying to see if I have anything easily. I don't know if I want to. I'll do it here. So we're going to learn new assignment and play my key number 1 on my keyboard. So what you can do is just say learn new assignment, hit whatever key you want to do this, and it will go to that marker. So if you have a second MIDI keyboard, you can do it over there. Drum pad, some sort of other continuous control module, something. Learn it for each of those 20 markers, and then every time you hit it, you can just go to that one. Is this what you're looking for? Let me know. So that's the only way I can think of doing this. Anyway, T. Caffarelli says, hey, dude, great content per usual. Question, any chance you know of a good way to take a MIDI sample pack and get them all into, I saw your later comment, into Logic without going one by one? Yes. Sure. Depends on, so T. Caffarelli, depends on what type you're looking at. If you're looking at like a folder full of drum loops, right? Then there's kind of a method for that. If you're looking for like, if you want to put them all into different instruments, that's one thing you can do. If you want them all in one keyboard, so it's like one key plays each of those things, then you can drag those into sampler and have them automatically pushed across the keyboard. I could probably do a video on that if you want to see more about it, because I do think there are some ways to make that work, not only with the Apple Loops interface, but also directly in sampler or quick sampler. So I'll think about making a video for that too, because so far all good ideas so far. So Gigadeath, the last step then. So yeah, let me do a new project real quick so I don't mess up that one. Don't close. Automation. Software instrument. So it starts with the audio MIDI setup, and we'll look at our MIDI Studio, right? You want to make sure your IAC driver's turned on. You can activate it here with the devices online check mark. So that's on. Cool. And then say we have some sort of region here that has a MIDI file in it, or like the MIDI trigger, right? So what you can do is MIDI out channel. No, not that. We want to do instrument. Oh, I have to think through this because I don't want to make sure. I don't want to make sure I don't give you the wrong thing. MIDI destination, IAC driver, bus 1, MIDI channel, whatever. So you can give it a MIDI channel. And because the IAC driver is always coming back into Logic, you can see that under the environment with the clicks and ports. IAC driver is right here. So that's going to automatically come back in as if it's a live input from the outside. And so then that you see send out the note here goes out to the IAC, and then the IAC is coming back in. And if that's the trigger point that you've set up for the key commands, theoretically, I haven't tested this because you're asking something I haven't done, but theoretically that should work because IAC comes as if it's an external thing. So then you send it out through the IAC back and it comes back in. Hopefully that helps. It's at least a place to start trying, and if you can make it work from there, then awesome. Savage Man says, can you do a session in depth with compression plugin in Logic? I've done a couple in the past, but we can always do more with that. I think that it's really interesting. There was somebody was just talking about these online. First of all, my fastest way to get to that is to click on the little gain reduction meter. And then it's like all of these various, I guess, kind of algorithms. It's really just slightly different curves on the actual how much the knee is doing, the attack, the ratio. They're all just have a little bit of character to them to match some of these original devices. But I think it's, let me see. Someone I was reading about was talking about the vintage VCA, which is supposedly similar. I think it's this one. I'd have to look to the SSL Master Bus. So that's pretty cool. But it's a great tool. It's like I've used most of the real compressors that those are attached to. And then T. Caffarelli says a vid on that would be amazing. My main issue is getting any packs into Logic. I got lucky once because that was it. The problem is getting these packs to live in Logic. Yeah, that is a trick. So there's a whole structure of doing presets and things which you can do, which means it's like you save a sampler and then it becomes accessible in every one of your projects, or you incorporate it into your master template that you create. So, I mean, there's a way to do both of those things. Gigadesk has another generic question. How can we export global Logic settings? It would be helpful if you have two different computer and a complex I/O labeling and plugin order. Well, I'll tell you what. The main way, well, those are project settings. I was thinking, I don't know if there is a way to do the global settings now that I think about it. So let me show you one thing which, if you're watching this, you may not know about. And that's because not many people know about it. But under the browsers, we have this one here, which is it's the main media browser. And we have project option and all files. So project refers to the project that we're looking at, and all files refers to everything in your computer. So if, for instance, if I go into music and into Logic, you'll see I just was organizing this week, and or actually a couple weeks ago, and I just haven't finished it. But say I click onto this Logic project right here, and it opens it up. It doesn't open it up into my project, it just opens it up here in the browser. And then you can do all of the, you can import tracks with or without the content, with or without the plugins, with or without the, the automation, the notes, the IO, all that stuff. But down below, you can do import project settings. And here you can import screen sets, score settings, sync settings, tuning settings, movie settings, transform sets, staff styles, metronome settings, audio settings, asset settings, lane sets, text styles, recording settings, and MIDI settings. Now, the reason this is nice is because you can just like your main template, right? Your overall template, instead of opening up the template, say you started a project on another computer, and then you're like, oh shoot, you can just open up your template through the browser and import any of these settings without having to like change your project or restart it or do anything. So you can just come through and do that. Now, what you're saying though is a little bit different because I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm sure there's a way to export some of those things in terms of things like the IO settings. So if we look at this, trying to think of if anything I've seen as this kind of thing that you're talking about, because there's other settings. So those were all the project settings that get stuck with the project, but you're talking about like the global stuff. And so I'll have to look at that. I don't know if I've seen a way, for instance, the IO labels to get pulled. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a way. I just don't know off the top of my head. It could be that you can grab something from your folder, the Finder structure, where you can go out in the Finder and actually look at that and pull those things across. But I don't think, as far as I know, there's a way to do it from here. So it would have to be something out in the Finder is my guess. The good news, or I mean the news, if it's one of your computers to one of your computers, you can certainly just take your whole application. Well, I don't know if that would take the preferences, because the preferences are going to be someplace else. I'll look into it for you, Gigadeath. When I have a minute, I'll take a peek at that, because that certainly is something that would be useful. Yeah, MIDI is my second least format of that type. MIDI, at least when we have it working or had it working on campus, it would work. But there's some other formats. Some of the network formats just are so stupid. So, oof. Like I said, I'll check it out. I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't think I can easily find that for you. Cool. Well, actually, some really awesome conversation with everybody. T. Caffarelli says, yeah, somehow I managed to get one pack to somehow stay open every time under Logic, Library Sounds, on the far left. Not sure how, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so like I said, I'll work on, I think I have some old library packs that it would be kind of fun to import and bring them in anyway. So I'll grab those and later this week make a video about that. And then Gigadeath says AVB, which is not, it's like, it's so rare that devices are even supporting that. It feels like AVB is not a thing that that's really nice. Let's see if I can. I think Motu was really the one doing that. Dante's the one that I hate the most. Dante promises that it works all the time, but It's like you need to have a full-time person on your staff just to make that happen. So, yay. I'm looking up which AVB devices right now are recommended. Yeah, it's the Motu. One of the Motus is the big AVB one. Cool. But I prefer, most of the time, I prefer just to run with a device I can hook in. Because, like, Dante's cool. What Dante does is something that I think is really useful in our studios. It's like we could hook all of our live rooms into one control room via Dante. And when it's all set up and working and you don't accidentally choose the wrong sample rate or, whatever, and you like nobody happens to be like none of the students have somehow overloaded the network on campus and that's all like on dedicated stuff, but it doesn't matter. It seems like everybody's like in the room, and even though it's dedicated, it still causes issues when there's like 50 students in there blasting it. Army is the best still. There's no question that Army it's one of my favorites in terms of quality. I don't have a device right now, but I've worked with them in various studios, and they're really good. They sound great. They work great. They seem to care about their customers. So I think that's really nice. But as with all good things, you're not looking at like cheap things either. Yes, Gigadesk is saying, regarding 200 plus buses, I had the experience of not being able to open a song 20 years old. This is why I do prints of everything. And then lists out a thing. Oh my gosh. You know what? I miss Nuendo's ability to print like submixes and stems of like every track simultaneously. You just like set up a preset and push the export and it does them all. It's like every once in a while I try to do that or I think of how nice it would be to do that in Logic, and it's not possible. So it's like one of those things that would be so nice, but we're so limited in that area in Logic. They've never really thought through the export features at all. They stink. You can do song exporting really easily. You can do file exporting pretty easily. You can bounce in place kind of thing is okay. But the minute you're like, I want to have like 3 different submixes happening on this project. I want to have like a surround and a stereo and an alternate stereo with like a separate type mix. And you want to do all those things, and you're in the wrong software because Logic just doesn't do those. Gigadeath, do you have a link to some of your music? I don't think I've ever actually heard your stuff. Oh, now you have to write songs. I see. So you've got it all ready. Now you're getting ready to do it. I want to hear your stuff. I want to hear like your ideas, because I know technically you've got a lot of really cool things, but going on. I know you understand the software about as good as anybody, but when you're ready, make sure you get me a link to something you're working on. Well, this was intended to be a shorter stream, but the conversation's good. This is the part of streaming that I like the most, is when we actually are talking about things. It makes the videos so that it's like no one's going to want to probably watch these type of videos later. I usually get like another 50 or 60 views. Sometimes on hot topics, I'll get another 500 or 600 views on a stream after it's over. But this type, I I don't expect we'll get too many like viewers later. But the actual talking, the conversation, the impact of doing it in the moment, I think is really valuable. Thomas is here. Hey, Thomas. Regarding exporting, is there a way to export a whole folder of, say, 100 projects with batch processing, not like opening each project individually? No, sadly. Sadly not. That would be awesome. There are some other applications which do that. Just Logic isn't one of them. Pro Tools isn't one of them. Ableton isn't one of them. Studio One is closer because it has the whole mastering section of its project management. You can do a little bit more with that. I'm sure if anyone in here is a Reaper user, they could tell us if they can do it in there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of their claim to fames. And if Reaper can do it, then we should give props because Reaper's our favorite software to bash on this channel, even though it's good. Still. T. Caffarelli says, yeah, this is awesome. I've never done this before. Jump on whenever you see it. Make sure, for those of you who are watching right now, make sure you do hit the notification bell after you subscribe so that way you'll be told when the streams are happening. That's the real trick to knowing when they're on, is getting notified, because otherwise YouTube is always trying to guess if it's something you might like or not. And if it thinks you might not like it, then you will never know that they're happening. Any other questions? I got about 4 minutes left before I got to jump off and go do something else. And we're going to do more of these backgrounds and cool things. Oh, by the way, a link didn't come. It may have held the link back. So you may have to like covertly tell me the link without doing the link. Because it likes to block things that it thinks are spam. Chris says stem export would be extremely helpful to a lot of us. Stem export would be extremely helpful to everybody. I agree. Gigadeath, you said in the chat. The chat doesn't usually let people put links to things. So you can like type everything in the link except for the like dot or the everything after the .com, before the .com or something. And that just is in quotations, but that's not a link either. Is that I'm gonna just do a little. I'm just doing a little search here, see if I can figure that out. But Gigadeath artist. Is that you? Is the song This System a single from 2011? Is that you? I should just put it on the screen. No, I don't have the screen up. Is that you right there? Okay, not you. Okay. I won't listen to that then. Or just email me the link at sam.mcguire. And that's at gmail.com. If you just email me your link, then I'll be able to get it there. Okay, let's pull the plug. There's 14 of you watching because you're awesome and you're in the right place on a Monday afternoon learning about stuff. Thanks for the ideas for the videos. I'll definitely be putting a couple things together. The one with the sample files. And there was one, something else. Oh, we're not going to do the chord trigger one. Gigadeath is already a master of the buses, but there may be room for another busing video to help Gigadeath with his busing addiction. I was trying to see if there's anything else. And then there was the exporting of the project preferences and not just the project preferences. That's it's such a pain in the butt because there's two different kinds. It's never easy. Okay, I'm out of here. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll leave this one up, but we'll see how many. It is what it is. McKendry says, when do you think Flex will get a complete makeover? Never. I think it's going to stay like it is. It's not horrible, but it's not amazing until they get like DNA stuff like Melodyne has, the direct note access where you can actually do chord analysis and move the internal notes of stereo tracks. Then I don't think they're going to change much. Anyway, thanks everybody. Got to run. We'll try to schedule the next stream a day in advance so that you have time if you want to come watch. So thanks everybody for watching.